Tune in to UFO Undercover, Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, with your host, Joe Montaldo, right here on the Paranormal Radio Network.
I had enough.
Well, you drove out there into the middle of nowhere and had some sort of loud verbal display challenging ET in general out in the middle of nowhere?
That's what I was doing. I actually had a pistol in my hand at the time. I was really ticked off. When I was having this fit, I was waving the gun in the air, okay, and I had this fit. And at this moment, I said, okay.
He was a Louisiana man named Montaldo. Folks around called him Six Gun Joe. Worked with ICAR, don't you know? Investigating UFOs. Out for a drive with a gal one night, they stopped to check out the reporting site. When an alien lit right there on the ground, commenced to throwing his weight around. Now, old Six Gun didn't take too kindly to that kind of thing, especially without Vaseline or anything like that, Seriously. Well, Six Gun looked that critter right in the eye and said, "Any last wish before you die?" Yo, reached for his gun, quick as a twitch, and said, "Fill your claw, you son of a bitch." Now a legend spread across the land about this pistol-waving man. But if you're from space or from Earth below, you don't give no lip to Six Gun Joe.
You're listening to UFO Undercover with your host, Joe Montaldo, right here on the Paranormal Radio Network. Welcome to UFO Undercover with your host, Joe Montaldo.
Wow, it took a little while to get in there. I hope y'all all enjoyed all that crazy UFO Undercover stuff that was blowing around. I hope everyone's having a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're on our great, big, beautiful blue planet. You know, I was listening to a show the other day. It's about a 5-year-old show. And the guy was opening the show like I always do. And I'm listening to him like, wow, that's pretty good copy there. And he goes on how he invented this saying. And I almost fell out the chair. I mean, I've only been saying this, you know, have a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are on our big, beautiful planet. I mean, he quoted me word for word. And then he said he invented it. I was like, wow, really now? So I wrote to him. I said, well, maybe you should go listen to some of my archives that have been, you know, they're about 25 years old now. So I think you actually heard one of mine and it just stuck in your head somewhere. I said, but please do before I have to make a big deal out of it. Then while he's on air, I was listening to somebody on I wanted to hear. While he's on, he goes and listens to it, and he comes back and said, oh, maybe I did. I said, yeah, maybe you did hear it somewhere else, didn't you? I've been saying that since Wake Up USA, which was 96, 95, 96. It's a long time, people. So, Jay, how you doing, man? Life's treating you good? Life's
pretty
good.
Yeah, work is good. Life is good. It's hot as hell down here. But I feel you on that thing about the catchphrase because for probably the last 25, 30 years, I've always been saying when people ask me about, you know, do aliens exist? I always say the same thing. We are not alone. We have never been alone, and we will never be alone. And Ancient Aliens stole that from me. Ancient Aliens stole it. Do you remember for years, 16 seasons, whatever, they always had the same opening with that the same guy doing the same, questions will they return, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And then the new season, season 20 or whatever, is that the last thing they say before the show starts is, "We are not alone. We have never been alone." They didn't use my last one, but I kind of know where they got it from.
I got to the point where I don't even worry about them anymore. I'll turn on anything ufology. I'll hear all kind of, especially if it's alien abduction stuff or changing of cases. I'll hear all kind of my stuff. I heard somebody the other day, for the second time, by the way, saying they rewrote the Betty and Barney Hill case, the one I rewrote.
You rewrote, yeah.
and they'll go on to the same thing, like, and I have to call them out. I'm like, no, you did not rewrite that. Matter of fact, it's so funny. We were there was a conference going on. It might have been it might have been Joshua Tree, but anyway, they're going on, and this guy gets up there and starts going on and on and on about this. And I guess there was a couple of my followers in the audience, and they're like, no, Joe Montaldo wrote that. You're just stealing his work. And the guy got all offended and said, and then the girl came over and said, oh no, this is his original material. And the girl goes, well, why don't you go listen to Joe's first Coast to Coast appearance ever, which was 20 years ago, and tell George Norrie and him that they didn't write it.
Yeah.
So while this was all going on, the woman went and listened to it and came back and realized, they're perjuring my work. And it's just so much of it out there. I got to the point where I just, if I happen to be somewhere or some of my people happen to be somewhere, then somebody might say, but most of the time it just gets used. And I mean, it was deliberately put out there to be used, but I mean, God, it'd be nice to say, hey, they don't even have to mention me, just mention ICAR. I mean, they're the ones that really did the work. So many people over there, and they did the work, and I'm kind of like, and there are specific cases that I worked, or specific things I worked, like the blood type study, that was my baby. But there's also November Hansen's babies over there, and DeAndrew, who's passed now. And she had the truckers website of her and David, who were actually running the truckers website. Somebody says, oh, well, that truckers website, blah, 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 blah. I said, yeah, that's part of the group. And they're like, what? Oh, yeah. So along with our groups in places like Brazil and Argentina, some of our places in Peru and in Spain. But what's that little country under Spain? Portugal. We have groups in there. And what I mean by groups, people, these are people who have done a case study of 5,000 or more cases. Yes. So there's 5 or 6 of them. There's about 30,000 of our cases, maybe even more than that. Maybe even 40,000 of our cases come from those type of groups. And sometimes they do grays, reptilians, and humans, and sometimes they do just one type of alien. Yeah, sometimes they do it like that. But anyway, we'll talk about that after a while. I've been reading so much about the James Webb telescope, and they think they found this, or they think they found that, or they think they found this. So if I listen to current science about James Webb, they really do think that they have found a half a dozen or more planets with life on them and 7 or 8 Dyson spheres. Man, that's a lot of life. I mean, that damn thing ain't just getting started.
Yeah, no. And if there's a Dyson sphere in any direction, that's the exact direction we should avoid, because there's no telling. If someone who's that advanced, some race, some society, whoever it is, whatever it is, if they can harness a sun, maybe put basically a metal ball around their entire solar system, at our advanced state right now, we should avoid that at all costs. All costs.
Yeah, they said they think there's 7 of them they found.
Yeah.
I was like, damn. I mean, that's pretty serious, people. I mean, most of y'all probably don't know what a Dyson sphere is, but you should look it up. For the everyday listener, you probably know what it is, but for the layman, you're not going to know what it is. It's just basically they build a giant sphere, put the sun in the middle of it, and all the land and everything else from whatever planets and they're going to use is put on inside of it. And it supports life. It has an underground, it has above ground, it has basically trees and everything else on it, and it grows it completely around the sphere. And the sun is in the center of the sphere, giving off life, not just life for growing stuff, but energy. They're harnessing the energy of that sun to power this. Yeah. So that's the level 2 civilization, I believe. And
yes, at least level 2. But the speculative Dyson sphere that they showed in Star Trek: The Next Generation was how you described it. Basically, that like the inside walls of the sphere had terrain and lakes and stuff, and the inside of the ball was an atmosphere. So the sun was no longer in the vacuum of space. per se. It was the whole entire sphere inside had an atmosphere. And I don't know that that's. I mean, that's a neat idea. I don't know that that's how a Dyson sphere actually works.
No, I would think first off, if you were going to do it like that without using planets, then you'd have to have some type of layered system. I mean, with oxygen being at the bottom, because come on, flame feeds off oxygen. You can't have it up there next to the sun, that's for sure. So you'd have to have something more like ours, where the higher or the closer you get to it, the different types of atmosphere. And I guess if you really wanted to, you could leave the vacuum of space surrounding it and just put an atmosphere, tiered atmospheres underneath it. Personally, and then there's the one like we talked about earlier, where you could just build it so there's still, how many of a planet you're going to use, 3, 5, 7, whatever it is, that are still whole planets, inside of the sphere, moving around like they would do, except they're in a fixed orbit, in a different type of fixed orbit, but they're in a fixed orbit, not just to maximize the usage of the sun, but the usage as them moving as power. So it just depends how big we're talking about here. I mean, it really does. It's hard to say because they're not really saying. So in the first case, it sounds like that it's very close to the sun. Well, that's a bad example. But what I mean by very close to the sun is maybe
it's not encompassing 4 or 5 planet.
Yeah, it maybe it's like Venus to the sun, or even closer than that. But and that would be a different kind of sun. That wouldn't also be no full out top of the line yellow sun. That'd probably be a little smaller sun or something, or maybe yellow sun just at a smaller magnitude. I mean, it all depends on area you encompass and what you can do with them. And what's that, Christopher? Oh, no, so you could have one with the solar system inside of you. If you can have one with just the sun and the ground,
the solar system is inside the sphere with the sun, and none of the sun's rays escape the sphere. But I don't see how. I mean, with it being so inefficient for us, how would that affect our society if we could harness all 100% of the sun?
And that's the other thing. Yeah. Well, it might. Well, no, Jamie. So when we're saying the whole solar system, we're not talking about all the Oort cloud, all of that out there. It's not what we're talking about. We're not probably even talking about Venus and Jupiter and Neptune, because those are planets right now that would not be useful. But then again, you have to remember, if we incorporate those, we incorporate all of their moons along with them. And that gets, you really, really have to understand how things work if you're going to do something like that. I mean, there's a lot of moons traveling, a lot of weird ass orbits, and Uranus and Neptune are already screwy because one of them's on an entirely different orbit than the other one is. So I'm not even sure how that would work. So some planets would probably get left behind.
They were finding a moon per year just about on Saturn. Saturn has 260 something moons. They'll probably find another one in the next decade or so. It may even capture, which is the reason why we kept seeing it. Maybe it's capturing solar bodies that are flying nearby, the atmosphere, asteroid belt, or foreign material flying through. So 263 moons, that's a huge amount.
But Jackie, it's in front of Jupiter. That's why Jupiter actually has a bigger gravitational field, but Venus is actually ahead of Jupiter towards the end of the solar system. So it's going to catch things before Jupiter does.
Not Venus, Saturn.
Saturn. I'm sorry, I said Venus anyway. Yeah, Saturn is quite a bit closer to the end of this.
It's not that much smaller than Jupiter, but Jupiter's gravity well is the biggest next to our sun in the solar system.
Yeah, and there's a good distance between them. So anything coming into the solar system in that direction is going to be picked up by Saturn. I mean,
or even one of the other three that
Yeah, well, it could be.
Saturn or Jupiter. All four of them. That's really basically their role. Is they're like the galactic shepherds. Anything dangerous coming into the inner planets, those things usually sweep it up.
Yeah, Uranus and Neptune pick up stuff too. Yeah, just Saturn is the one that picks up the most. You mean the rings? So the rings will be gone in not all that much time. Yeah, and well, in the grand scheme of human time, it's a little while.
Unless they turn into a moon.
Yeah.
Or a planet.
Or if a moon gets in there and gets destroyed, and it adds more debris. No, but right now it's slowly but surely cleaning itself out. Well, some might be turning into small rocks, or like Jay said, one might turn into a moon. There's just a lot of debris there.
Yeah.
How much of it is ice is an argument. Yes, it might it might completely create an ice moon somewhere. Yeah, like the ones on Star Wars or Star Trek. You see, yeah, something like that.
Hoth, yeah.
Something that can be brought to a world and used. Well, look at Mars. If you had an ice world and you could just bring it to Mars and basically take your time, melt it on Mars, you could bring Mars back to life. It's a little more than that, though, Bobby, because Mars's gravity is so weak right now.
Well, it lost its magnetic atmosphere. Yeah. That's why it doesn't have an atmosphere. It can't maintain the gases necessary for our life without a stronger magnetic field.
So, yeah, it's going to need some help. Well, no, Mars has an atmosphere, and it has rain.
Very thin. Very
yes,
thin.
And it has clouds, just not like we do. You're not going to see no cumulus nimbus clouds on Mars.
No precipitation, weather, sea storms.
Well, no, there's precipitation, but just very little. There's snow and rain. All of that they found out in the last, not that long, actually. So they never could figure out what cleaned out that rover, and then they realized what it was. They thought it was a dust devil, but it was too clean for that. And it actually rained on it, yes. And well, see, look at it this way: every year the caps melt and they're gone.
Yeah,
and then they come back, and there's only one way to get them back.
They also migrate. Don't they change position from year to year?
Yeah, they are moving around just like ours do. Ours move around too, but it's But think about it, people. They're gone and then they're back. That means there is precipitation. There has to be something that brings back the ice in the water, and that's snow. In the way we think of it, yes, it's just not. It's not the way. So first off, like an ice crystal, there it might be like this. Our ice crystals like this. And you got to look at a microscope. No, it's different there, because there's it's the way the gravity works. There's nothing to hold them together, so they just kind of
it's like
mushroom out.
1/6 of the Earth's gravity, or 1/5, something like that. It's very similar to the gravity on the moon. Only it's a larger spatial body. It's 4 times
it might be 1/3. I'm not, all I know is a regular human, Jay or I, could just pick up the front of a car without having to have a jack or anything. I also know that you could actually literally jump 2 stories, so you wouldn't need stairs. Yeah, you could jump story to story. Yeah, just put rails on the side.
Have ceilings.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's going to be an interesting thing. But anyway, getting back to what we're talking about. So James Webb has been looking through these atmospheres of these planets, looking for specific things, hydrocarbons, other types of things, just several chemicals that would suggest life. And if they're there probably is life. So on about 7 planets now, they have found different types of chemicals, not the same ones on each planet, but chemicals that suggest there is some type of life there. Now, only on 3 that they're thinking it may be some type of industrial life. They have found hydrocarbons, like
fluorocarbons, right?
Yeah, so, well, whatever you call gasoline burning in the atmosphere.
Fluorocarbons.
So they found these in their atmospheres, which suggests there's some type of
combustion going, mechanical combustion.
They think there's some type of mechanical something on the planet. Yeah. Well, usually if there's something mechanical, there's something that built it. Well, maybe it is a robot life, but I don't know. But they're thinking there is some life on at least 3 planets, probably around the same industrial stage that we are.
Not if they have a Dyson sphere.
But no, that Dyson sphere is way further out.
Oh, okay, good.
This is much closer to us.
Further away, the better.
Yeah, from what I understand about the Dyson sphere, I mean, it's way the hell out there. So you mean one of our ships, it would take like, I don't know, 400 million years to get to it or something. Some outrageous amount of number that we're not going to do.
You got there, would it still be there? Would it have been destroyed?
So, well, no, I mean, so they find these different things in these atmospheres and they go, okay, there's probably some kind of life. So 3 of them, NASA got all mad when the information was released about, oh, there may be 3 industrial civilizations. Oh, they didn't want to talk about that. Well, see, that's a good thing, though. Industrial civilizations are safe. They can't get to us right now. We can't get to them. They can't get to us. It's these advanced civilizations you got to worry about. Like when we talk about the Dyson sphere, they probably have craft that go faster.
Don't forget, the light that we're analyzing from these James Webb data is millions of years old.
No, not the ones with the planets. It's within 5,000 light years, so it's very close to us. So that's the only. Now is true though. Jay made a point. It may not be hundreds of thousands of years, but even 5,000 years.
They could
if you
still
look at,
be way more advanced than us by now.
Yeah. So if you look at us today, and you look at us 5,000 years ago, ooh, there's a big difference. So if you're looking at a race that we're looking at right now, is at the same level we are, but they're 5,000 light years away. So that means they're 5,000 years older than us. They're probably a good bit more advanced than we are. What could be both ways? I mean, they may be looking at us and saying the same thing because we don't know if they had wars.
They ran the same technology against Mars and detected nuclear explosions.
That's what I'm saying.
The type of nuclear particle that is only possible through man-made nuclear explosions, not natural occurring nuclear explosions like a sun. Imagine that.
And there's always been an argument about a war, and that's how the fifth planet got destroyed. There's more and more evidence coming out that first off, it was a planet and it wasn't just a bunch of debris. Unfortunately for NASA, NASA always jumps to the opposite conclusion for some reason. When oh no, it's just an unformed planet. Okay, well, at the time, you could say that because we don't know what was in it. Now, unfortunately for NASA, we know of a lot of what's in these asteroids. And some of this can only be made under extreme pressure, the type of pressure when a planet's forming or the type of pressure when a volcano or something like that, like a caldera is going off.
Yeah, if there's a solid gold asteroid out there, that isn't made in space. It's made, it's solar material. It's left over from a nova. That stuff coalesces like our solar system did, coalesces into various planets, and then as those planets cool and harden, those gases, heats, and pressure create diamond, coal, lead, everything on our periodic table is created in this fashion.
So NASA now has to say that they're pretty sure at one time this was a planet. It was a big ass whopping planet, 5 times the size of Earth. That was probably inhabited. So a lot of people believe that Earth, the fifth planet, Mars, and Venus were all inhabited at the same time. And whatever catastrophe, whether it was a war or an asteroid road coming through, or maybe it was what was that one Neribru? Maybe the fifth planet was Neribru, but whatever it was, it caused a catastrophic disaster. So Mars' atmosphere got blown away, and most of its magma got shot into space, which cooled it down and also hurt its magnetic field. Venus just went super hot. I mean, Venus is almost identical to Earth, and even its upper atmosphere still is, but the rest of it is just global warming on an extreme.
But if Venus is a natural planet of this solar system, something must have drastically happened because it spins 180 degrees opposite direction of all the other planets.
Yeah, I'm thinking a big chunk of whatever that fifth planet was hit it and sent its ass. It's probably what sent it into where it's got it all. You know, a big chunk hit it. You know how Earth got formed, like when our moon hit into it. So something like that probably hit it and stopped it for a moment, and then started moving it the other direction because that's the way that big heavy mass was leaning, and away it went. Because the problem with Venus is I forgot what he said, but it's like every 72 hours or every 72 days, the surface is completely redone. It's just completely redone. And well, people, it's like if you go watch a place where there's magma activity all the time, you'll see things are rolling under and changing, rolling under and changing. That's what they think is going on Venus. Well, they've got a couple of probes to the surface of Venus. No, they've never got a probe to the surface of Jupiter that I know of. I don't think
we have had flybys, but I don't think anything's touched the surface. The only thing that touched the surface of Jupiter was fragments of Shuki-Levy 9 back in the 90s. Like 17 pieces of comet went like shotgun blasted the lower belts of Jupiter. Remember that?
Yeah, and we don't know how squished they were when they actually got to the surface. Well, it's got serious gravity. I mean, it's nothing we've got's going to go down.
All they did was penetrate the cloud barrier. I bet you those fragments of Shuki-Levy didn't get 1,000 feet into those gases before they were pulverized.
Probably bits and pieces just floating around, caught up in the system now. The gravity on Jupiter is intense, and they don't think the core is all that big. Actually, they think because of the gravity,
size of the Hope Diamond, like a heart-shaped, baseball-shaped, softball-shaped piece of metal diamond. Some say it's a diamond.
You just think it's just been squished and the gravity's so strong. Well, it's like pressure on anything else. It's way more intense there. Well, we won't know. I mean, maybe give us another 100 years, we might be able to get something down there and take a look around. I mean, nobody said we'd ever get to the bottom of the ocean. We can do that now.
Oh, and even in Star Trek's time, which is like 200 years ahead of us, they hadn't even gone inside of their sun or inside of Jupiter. So that's how enormous and powerful those objects are.
Well, Reese, is that your name? Oh, I'm sorry, Reese's. I mean, like the Reese's cup. Where are you from? Okay, well, I'm glad to know you're female, but where are you from? Sri Lanka. Damn. I actually met somebody who used to live down there. A very famous gentleman. I actually interviewed him a couple of times. His name was Arthur C. Clarke. Yeah, the guy who invented the communication satellite. Yeah, we know he
robots.
Yeah. We also know he wrote two books. Well, I'd say they were good books, but some people say they're more confusing than good. Well, that all depends on the way you look at them.
Well, Dune is very confusing, but Dune could be happening right now.
Dune 2. I'm not going to talk about Dune 2, people.
I didn't like it.
It was like a cliffhanger.
But, yeah, well, so I found out why. He's changed it fairly. I'm not going to give any spoilers away, but he's changed it fairly radically from the book. What he intends to do is he's got the rights to do book 2 and book 3. I think Children of Dune and God Emperor of Dune are the next two. He's going to try to do them as a trilogy, or cool. maybe 3.
Well, I know that's what's his name, Son and Kevin J. Anderson are the ones that are writing it. And I talked to both of them last year at Writers of the Future. I talked to them this year at Writers of the Future too. And I told them, please don't fuck up Dune. Excuse my language, people.
Yeah.
Too late. I like the original version. People, you know what? I like the original version the best, but I also like 2 other versions as well.
The sci-fi version didn't suck. It was a little, chintzy because it was TV only. Didn't have Hollywood budget, but it was I don't know how many episodes, 5 or 6 2-hour episodes.
Yeah, I mean, Dune had a lot of potential for a lot of things, but it doesn't matter what you watch; it'll never be the book. No.
Yeah, it wasn't. The original cut that David Lynch put together after he edited all the film he had, because he was the 3rd director to come on board, so there was already a good bit already shot when he came aboard. When he finished editing the first final cut, it was 12 hours long. He cut that in half. He showed that to movies. No one liked it. He cut it in half to 3 hours and 50 minutes. Showed that to audience. Nobody liked it. He cut it down to 2 hours and 17 minutes, and it was nominated for several Academy Awards, and only one, I think, for costuming, who was the guy who did the Batman costumes, Bob Ringwood.
Was that Frank? Well, no, there's just, like I said, there's several versions of Dune you can watch, and the TV versions also include Children of Dune and I forgot the other one.
The sci-fi version is they took God Emperor and Children of Dune books 2 and 3 and mashed it into the second series, which is also like 5 or 6 2-hour movies.
What are you talking about, Denise? The full remake? I think there's 3 full remakes. It might be 4, but I think there's 3. There's 3 for sure. There's the first one, the one where they changed the worms and they changed the guys, the weird creatures that put you through time and space, and then the last one. So there's 3 I know of for sure.
Well, there's the first David Lynch movie. Then they released the 3 hour and 50-minute rough cut that he showed to theaters or to audiences, and they didn't like it. So he took his name off it. The writer took his name off of it, and a couple others. So they're like, it's the one that's directed by Alan Smithy. It's 3 hours 50 minutes. That's the second version of the first theatrical movie. Then there's a sci-fi version. Then there's a sci-fi Children of Dune, God Emperor Dune collaboration, and then there's Benicio del Toro's version. And those are the versions that are out there.
Mm-hmm. Well, this last version just I don't know.
Special effects fantastic. Movie was I wouldn't call the cinematography great, but the movie is well lit.
They just left out so much.
There's a lot. It has to be a TV show.
You know, I mean, there was things about Mordib that just didn't manifest itself in this movie. So, hey guys, I'm just being honest. Y'all go watch it. Tell me what you think. Send me a thing. I know both the writers. Yes, I see them every year. Writers of the Future. They're both judges for Writers of the Future. Kevin J. I've had many conversations with about several other things, and I can't remember his name, but the son of the guy who wrote the book. I've had several conversations with him. Yeah, Ryan Herbert. Ryan. He was yeah, like I said, they're judges of Writers of the Future. Yeah. Oh, I can't. They're not going to listen to me. They're writers. I'm just press.
The lowest form of writer.
Yes, I'm just pressed.
Just as the comedian who uses puns is the lowest form of comedian.
Well, okay, Samantha. The first of the last one they made, the first it was decent, and it was moving right along with the book and the first movie. And then all of a sudden, well, it's like when he makes it rain and when he splits what's his name in half, and there's just things that should have been in there that just weren't. That made him Mordib. I mean, he's not Mordib without these events. At least they put him catching his own worm. I was beginning to wonder if they were going to do that.
For those in the audience who don't know, the whole precept of the series of books, 6 total, is the evolving of this human being who's been carefully genetically bred by a group of beings, which basically like nuns, really evil nuns. And he becomes God. He develops powers. He can be everywhere at once. And I forget which book it is, the 3rd or 4th book. At some point, he just goes bloop and appears in every planet's courtroom in his little universe and says hi to everybody. But just think about having that kind of power. It would be cool.
He well, they you mean in the children do? Yeah, they kind of played him down. They got rid of him eventually, but he should have never went anyways. Mordib, he had the ability.
Regardless, at the end of the book, the end of the movie, there should be only one thing at the end of the movie: rain.
Yes, because it's
in the book.
They didn't have to do. Yeah, they didn't have to do the whole planet underwater, just parts of it. The whole planet. I mean, they could, and the worms he could have transferred into some type of whale anyway. They didn't have to stay as worms. They were as big as whales anyhow. So
the regular water is poisonous to the sandworm of Arrakis. It kills them, and that's how they get the water of life. Is they drown baby worms in water, and kill them, and then they throw up this blue liquid that is basically a poison that only Bene Gesserit evil nuns can turn into water. And, and there's some really weird concepts going on. But if I recall, I've read the book 3 or 4 times, haven't read it in a while. But as I recall, at the end of the book, he doesn't make it rain on the whole planet. He just fills in the basin of Arakeen, which is a city that's surrounded all 6, all the way around by a crater or a canyon, cliffs. He fills that up with water.
Yes, which he could have took.
That's one way to kill an army, man. You're drowned.
It's it was a good way of doing it. He that way now there was a lake of water on the planet. He had the ability to keep it that way, and he was supposed to be the emperor. So you got to wonder what happened.
He actually also marries Princess Irulan at the end.
Yes,
and keeps he never sleeps with her. He keeps his Fremen girlfriend Chani. Or Cheney as bound concubine, just like his father.
Yes. Well, okay, Bob. So technically, there is a place where they talked about her maybe having a child because they needed one to rule the empire, but that's not true. It doesn't matter if the wife was a concubine, he was still emperor. So any child of his would have still been emperor or empress. Yes. So it really didn't matter. Yeah, well, they could have had one. I mean, it's not a thing why they didn't.
He doesn't. As far as I know, I haven't read all the books, but as far as I know, he only has children with Chani, and he has 3: a set of twins and one that dies early on.
Yeah, one that gets killed. Yeah, and then this crazy ass sister.
Yeah, she was born with all the knowledge and powers of the Bene Gesserit evil nuns, and at the end of the book, they kind of show a glimpse of it in David Lynch's movie. They show her standing amid all the dead Harkonnens in the sand field, and she's holding a bloody crysknife.
Yes.
In the book, she runs through all the battlefields, and anyone who's barely alive or still alive, she cuts their throats. And she's 5 or 3, something like that.
Yeah, she's
messed up kid.
Well, you see, that's what they tried to do in the other movies, the other TV movies. They tried to make Muad'Dib something else, so that these other children could come along and do something. But that's not what the writer intended. The writer intended him to go along and rule the universe until he died. So it's a different take. Well, yeah, because he's Muad'Dib, and you're not gonna.
He does perish somewhere around book 3 or 4, and comes back as a Gola, like his friend, and he still has the same powers.
He's well, one, you shouldn't have been able to kill him. That's the other thing. Being who he was, you shouldn't have been able to kill him. He should have known what was coming. So there's a bunch of stuff there that gets itchy, sketchy, scratchy up in there. But movie makers have to do things.
It really is.
I mean, they have to do whatever they think is going to sell some books.
Yeah, and if you read the first book, the other books I don't think are quite as meaty, but every character just about in the first book has inner thoughts, which are written in italics. Every character, every main character, every subordinate character, and every supporting character for the subordinates just about has some sort of plot or subplot against one of the main characters. There's hundreds of plots throughout the book. There isn't just one. And it'd be impossible without doing a TV show, like a 10-season TV series, to get all those things in there.
Well, I mean, Bobby, just go look at it and just tell me what you think. Anyway, what's that? So finding any type of carbons, especially what we were talking about earlier in the atmosphere, suggests life like ours. But depending on how far away it is, depends on really where it is today. And it's not to say, they could still be less advanced than us, even because they could have had a nuclear war. There could have been lots of things that slowed down their evolution. They might not
have a Jupiter and a rock came through their solar system and shredded their planet. You never know.
Yeah. So you mean until we go there, but if you take it natural, like we were just talking about, they would be 2,000 to 5,000 years more advanced than we are. Which depends on how they're advancing themselves, what kind of deal that is to us. But right now, that would be like if we went back and met the Africans or the South Americans 5,000 years ago with today's technology, with drone technology and everything we have today.
Well, you're just a cell phone. You'd be God. You'd be in charge of the entire planet.
But what I mean is, but you would have all of that. So you'd go back and these people, the only way they could look at you is that as you were God. You would have things flying in the sky at your command. They could be dropping bombs and killing people at your command. And a lot of this stuff would be voice commands. So of course it would be like, God, blow up that, blow up this, pick up that. It's all kind of diseases you could kill with just a shot. As far as feeding the multitudes, yeah. You know how they pulled all the food out when Jesus did it? Well, you could just go along there with a bunch of small bombs along the coastline and all the fish would jump on shore. And they do it in ponds all the time. They throw sticks of dynamite, then the fish just float up and they go take it.
If you watch Crocodile Dundee,
it's illegal, guys.
Yeah, it's illegal.
But they do it. So
you have to have
all these things
to even get your hands on like actual dynamite. So
yeah, it's that's what I'm saying. So you just don't know where we are technologically, what level we're going to be against them, and you don't know how many races we're going to meet that are going to be far less advanced than us that we'll be taken advantage of. But you have to remember, if we're out there taking advantage of the races by giving them stuff like we did with the Africans and the South Americans, who's going to be doing that with us? So you don't know how many races may show up here and offer us things, drugs to cure things, types of foods, artwork. There may be races out there that just want to trade and just want to be friends and help us to evolve. And maybe there's a galactic economy, and if that's the case, they'll want us to get involved in that.
Yeah.
So there may be that. And then they may just be conquering SOBs who, as soon as they see us and say, well, we're going to take that planet in about 2 days.
They could be Vulcans. They could be Klingons. They could be Romans. They could be far, far wars. Far wars.
Jeffrey, no, really. I mean, so let's look at it this way. Humans are less than 2 million years old. The current race here is less than 15, 20,000 years old. So
Our historical society is only what, 6,000 years written history.
Well,
6,
now it's 12,500 because of the cities we found off the coast of India.
But that's unwritten history, though. Most of it. I'm talking,
Yeah,
but
it's being written in now. So
we got 7,000 years of
if you
recorded
do
history.
If you do the first written, that would be the Sumerians, unless you want to believe in the Zero Dynasty Egyptians, then that would be 6,000 years ago.
Yeah.
But there's some stuff in Angkor Wat that suggests that we had written history long before that. There was also supposedly some stuff in the Great Library of Alexander that said we were at least 15,000 years old. We were here at the turn of the last ice age. Now, we have found cities that prove that we were here at the turn of the last ice age, but written history is still written history, and there's nothing written from there. There are some stuff talked about in India about lost cities, but not really what they were or who they were.
They found one of them. Was it Dwarka?
I know they found two of them side by side.
Yeah.
When that tsunami did it, well, there was a tsunami of, I don't know, about a decade ago, maybe a little longer, out in the ocean, and it pulled all the water out. And when it did, they found two sunken cities out there. And they found one off the coast. They have found several cities lately that suggest that we were a thriving civilization on a planet at 12,500 years ago.
Yeah, and I believe I saw something they rediscovered where the alleged Lemuria was, the continental shelf that's just between like Indonesia and Southeast Asia. That's exciting news.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. Well, see, that's the thing. There's a lot of stuff now that suggests we're a much older species than we want to believe. But even at that, currently, I mean, it's only taken us back 12,500 years. But there are things that help that. Frankly, the only time the pyramids of Giza line up with Orion, it's only at 12,500 years ago. That's when they line up. Yeah,
yes. Robert Bovall did the math on that. It was I don't know how he came up with June or July, but somewhere between June and July of 10,500.
Well, they can tell you today. They can tell you to the date, to the exact day. So of when, and then like the Phoenix. It's not the Phoenix. The Sphinx only lined up with Leo at 12,500 years ago. Angkor Wat only lined up with the it wasn't the Seven Sisters. It was Draco at 12,500 years ago. The statues on Easter Island only line up with the Seven Sisters at 12,500 years ago. And then I forgot which one the constellations of the Druids Stonehenge lines up at, but I can't remember which constellation, but they all were at 12. So people, what this means is none of these monuments were built any further back than 6,000 years ago. So that means somebody who built these monuments first understood precession, but it understood it backwards, because they built monuments to a time that is long past and to the date. I mean, shit, even today we'd have a hard time with that. And then here's what. Some guy living in Africa built a city that lines up with a constellation at 12,500 years ago. I mean, how did he know that? How did the Egyptians know that? How did the people at Angkor Wat? Don't get me wrong, these are all advanced cities. But the people who built the Druids are supposed to be older than that. And the ones at Easter Island are supposed to be older than that. But yet somehow or another, they figured out how to build these things and line them up with these constellations that had happened 6,000 years before they lived, or even were a civilization. It's a little complicated, people.
Well, I mean, you have to look at the technology. They say that the Egyptians built the pyramids on the plain of Giza. Well, it's impossible. They didn't have the right tools. They didn't have the correct math. No blueprints have been found. In order to build a building as precisely built as, especially the interior rooms and structures of the big pyramid, you have to have a plan. You can't just go out and take a bunch of giant rocks and then start cutting them on as a whim to make a room, you have to have precise measurements. And we need
did,
this
and we
rock
know
this
this.
size with these niches cut out, like now, stat, and then some guy goes and cuts that rock and brings it to you in a couple of hours or days.
And we know the stones weren't even cut there. There's no debris from them. So,
yep. And well, the quarry for the granite is like 120 miles away. The red granite is 70 miles away, and the limestone is local.
That's what I'm saying. People, well,
mining,
no, elephants could have pulled them. I mean, if you could get your hands on elephants and tree trunks, you could have pulled them that way.
But there would be even today there would still be like the ramp theory. There's the old ramp theory that the pyramids were built in like a spiraling ramp that went up level by level till they got to the point, and then when they were done, they unbuilt the earthen ramp. Well, there would be evidence of that. If there were drag marks, if there was a road coming from the quarry to this, none of that. The main speculation is that however they got the rocks quarried, they didn't have the right metal. First of all, they're copper/Bronze Age people. Copper and bronze is like chalk on a chalkboard. Yes, it'll make a mark, but it's wasting itself to make a mark on the harder surface. So there's just no way they could have mined this stuff. But they
you know how many chisels you would have had to go through?
The river came so much closer that if they were able to mine these stones, they brought them by river.
Well, there was one they said that they had used the copper and they had put diamonds on the end of the
I've seen those
chisel.
It's not the same type of cut. I mean, Chris Dunn analyzed the marks on both the demonstration models and inside the pyramid.
Well, there would have been at least pieces of diamond left somewhere.
There's no the marks that are on the granite inside the pyramids. There's no tool that Chris Dunn can identify, past or present, that could make those marks.
The only thing I've seen that make marks like that is a water pick thing. The reason it's not a machine cut is because it's all rounded on all the edges and rounded on the corners. That would either be some type of laser or some type of water. Oh no, John, water could easily cut that. Yeah, water. You'd be surprised but water will cut. Water will cut
CNC machine.
Steel,
oh my God, it cuts metal.
Easily. Yeah, but it's a different kind of cut. It's something we're talking about. Chiseling, and if you were using chiseling at first, you're not using copper chisel. I mean, you would go through, one person would go through like 200 or 300 chisels a day if he was using copper chisels.
And there'd be copper marks all over the rocks. There isn't.
So it's just. Well, so I would think it was either water or lasers. That's what I'm thinking. Which, maybe they had a way of doing water back then that I don't know of, because obviously they had a way of doing light that I didn't know of, and oxygen. So. Well,
the demonstrations you're talking about, I saw those. They did some demonstrations with ancient. We built them, but they were built to the shape and size of the ancient Egyptian rock carving tools. They were able to split limestone. Copper is harder than limestone. You can make precision cuts with that. Not a problem. Cover stone's no big deal. The Egyptians could have done that, but the precision cuts on the granite that's inside those buildings is so. I mean, you can't fit paper between these blocks. There's no way that they could have done it. The demonstrations only showed like they took them 4 or 5 hours with the diamond drill to drill like a 1/4-inch hole in a piece of granite. There's no way that they spent weeks, months, years drilling holes with those kind of drills. Whatever made those marks, that tool is not to be found or has not yet been uncovered.
And they look like they did long striations, so that there wouldn't be no variation or wave. Yeah. So whatever was cut, there was something to cut smooth. We do have 3 things on this planet right now that will cut. We have regular saws. We have a special saw made just for that cuts. Cut it flat. It can cut it standing up. It's and we also have water that'll cut that, and there is a new type of plasma pick that will cut it. And all 3 of them ain't cheap to cut with. Mm-hmm. Well, the blade on one of them saws, depending on what size you're talking about, are expensive. But again, when you look at the way the rock looks on the pyramids, it's rounded, so the corners are rounded. The in between the cuts are rounded over. No, that's not from water. The stuff in the Sphinx is from water, but the pyramids aren't as old as the Sphinx is. They're only 6,000 or 7,000 years old. And whatever they used to cut it, it had to be one of those 3 tools. Well, actually, one of the 2 tools, because the saw wouldn't have left rounded, smooth cuts like that. They would still be pointed on the corners. Only a water or plasma, something that was coming up around the corner when it was cutting, would make a smooth point like that. Yeah, whatever they did. I mean, yeah, they could sit there and have sanded it if it was jagged, but that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
I don't know. And then there's these things with how they lit the inside, because there's no scorch marks anywhere of any type of soot.
No carbon.
Yeah, they can't find any soot anywhere in any of these. And
there's no niches to put torches either. So I mean,
yeah, there's no places to hold torches. And besides that, the torch would have sucked up all the oxygen, so you wouldn't know they had people.
The further in you go, it would eventually went out anyway.
Yeah, and well, no, Chris, would have burned out oxygen much faster. And if you'd had 20 humans in there and 2 torches, you'd have to get out of there. Oh yeah, because it's not going to work that way. Those rooms weren't that big. Besides that, the hieroglyph shows something that looks like a glass tube that's 2 or 3 foot long, with a cable on the end of it and something that fits on the bottom, and what looks to be an electric eel inside of it, which would be what we would consider a filament today. So it looked like they had some type of electric bulb, and they talked about these electric bulbs at the Great Library at Alexandria. They also talked about electric gold plating earlier on. So somebody had an understanding of electricity.
Well, we know they were electroplating because with the Baghdad batteries, which can, if you make one with modern, equipment, I think it's 5 or 6 or 7 watts it produces, which is just enough to electroplate gold to a base metal.
Now, there was a lot of things that we lost. The Great Library went down. There's just a lot of stuff that we lost. And there may be some of this stuff in private collection somewhere that were saved from the library, but nothing we're going to ever see, at least not now.
Yeah, and it probably would. We probably couldn't replicate the entire library. I mean, whatever was there. If there's 2 others, we need to find them. Okay. When you listen to scientists talk, so the loss of the Library of Alexandria supposedly put us back 1,500 years. That's what they're saying, 1,500 years. The Crusades, the Inquisitions put us back another 700 or 800 years. So all that religion in the Middle Ages put us back. Well, because great minds like Leonardo and other ones out there, Raphael and all of them, were not allowed to think freely completely. Even Da Vinci, what's his name? The one that used to see Notre Dame. They weren't allowed to think completely open and freely because they would have got killed. Well, they weren't able to think freely because look at the drawings of Da Vinci, but they weren't allowed to speak up. So anything that they said that counteracted or contradicted what the church said was death.
Yeah, they couldn't talk against any of the kings or queens, and the fact that Notre Dame picked the right pig almost got his head chopped off because the king had the pig switched out to make sure that Notre Dame couldn't get the right one at the last minute, and at the moment they were getting ready to kill the pig, the black one ran off, so it was the white one that was served. Well, the king was told it was a black one, but at the end, the guy asked him, he said, "Oh no, the black one ran away. We had to serve the white one." Of course, Notre Dame was white. But Notre Dame also talked about his kids dying and family. He used to talk to the queen a lot. He had advanced knowledge of stuff. He just did. I mean, Jesus, he built the first hang glider.
Yeah.
Well, no, he didn't talk openly against the church, Bobby. No, he'd have got killed. All that scurrying and stuff, if that was all made public at the time, he'd have been in trouble for that. He had to be real careful. That's why he made friends with the queen and stuff, because he had to be real careful. He was into a lot of stuff that would be considered not good.
I mean, he was digging up freshly buried loved ones and then carving them up to see what the inside of the human body looked like. That's why he has such great drawings of it.
Like, what do you mean, was he an alien? I don't know if he was an alien or not, but you had 5 or 6 people living at that time that could have advanced us quite a long ways. And well, look at Galileo. They even held Galileo stuff back because it didn't go with what we believed. They even held, they held the world was round back for 200 years because it didn't go with what they believed at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Even today, they do this shit. Even today, they hold stuff back because they don't feel like. So we, stuff. If you go listen to Wake Up USA, You hear me talk about a lot of things that are actually fact today, but back then were considered no, especially when it comes to Mars and on space and stuff. There's lots of stuff I talked about, including AI and the desensitization program, that are all fact today, all of it. But back then it was considered no to talk about, and no, Joe, that could get you in trouble, and that's never going to happen. No, there's not going to be any type of life on Mars. There's not going to be water on Mars. There's not going to be atmosphere on Mars. All of that's wrong, and it's probably going to, I guarantee we're going to find life on Mars. I would guarantee you that we're going to find life on 5, 6, 7 planetary bodies in our system. Guaranteed. I would bet every dollar I have on that. That's in our own solar system. So what that tells you is when you look out at the trillions of planets in our galaxy, and if we find 7 just in our own solar system, what the hell does that mean for the universe or for the galaxy? I mean, that means there's just tons of life.
Yeah.
Tons and tons and tons of life. I think as we start to explore, we're going to start finding more and more and more in life. And finally, when we meet when we get out and actually meet an alien, they're going to be, hopefully there's like some kind of galactic consciousness or something, so they don't kill us. But it might be like Babylon 5. They may just find us like the Centauri found us, and hey, let's make them spend money. Let's sell them stuff like jump gate technology and medicines and things like that, and make them worship it because we're giving them yeah, of course, as a human race, we're going to go for that. They got the cure for cancers, a cure for any disease, stuff that makes you live longer. Actually, Frank, that's the thing about doing the spice made you live longer.
Yep.
An average just human, 500 years at least. I mean, the emperor was 400 years old, so.
Yeah. And I think the guild navigator that you see that yells at the emperor in the beginning of the movie, he was like 2,000 years old.
Oh, yeah, navigator definitely was. Yeah, it extends their life much longer. Yeah, but anyway, I don't know. They never did say what the cap was. And somebody like Mardib would probably live pretty much forever. He was there to bring everything back under. But you see, in the last movie, the great houses conceded to him. In this movie, they didn't. They went to war with him.
They declared war, which is not at the end of that book.
So they did. So they're going to bring this into a war. I don't know. I don't think I'd go to war with Mardib. I think he knows too much about y'all to go start and fight with him. And you know what else bothers me? There's no weirding modules.
Well, they weren't original to the book.
Oh, maybe not, but still, they should.
They were David Lynch invention because basically in the book what you have is Paul and his mom teach the Fremen how to do martial arts, karate, and they basically just sand kick the living snot out of the Harkonnen and the Sardaukar. But David Lynch didn't want kung fu on the desert, so he gave them the weirding modules.
Kung fu in the desert.
Well, I mean, think about it in a science fiction setting. You know, you have guys in bare feet in the sand versus guys in spacesuits with laser guns. Who's going to win? I mean, come on.
I know. Marcus, the closest one that I know that they think is near us is about 300 light years out. So their technology would probably be similar to ours. Yeah. So when they're looking at us at 300 years ago, which we would have been, riding horses and
pre-industrial age.
But that's about the closest. And then, of course, there may be, for some reason, just recently, they said there may be life in the Proxima system, which is the closest one is 3.87 light years out. The next one's like 4.3 light years out. So they're really close to us. Yes. Oh yeah, that's something that's achievable in a lifetime. Well, anything, even if at half light speed, it would take you 8 years to get there, 8 years to get back. 16 years. But, remember, let's not forget about the old expeditions. See, people always say, oh, we can't do that. But people forget about the expeditions from the Middle Ages and stuff when they went roaming around for months and years at a time. Or even with Columbus when they came roaming around all through. I mean, that wasn't like 2 months or anything. That was quite a long time.
Yeah.
And there's lots of these that are out there 5, 6, 7, 8 years. So it's not beyond our means to do this. It's not beyond our means to carry food with us, because they can be launching everything in space while they're building a primary craft and have it waiting and just drag it along as they go and be dropping things off if they don't need them anymore. Oh yeah,
If the rumors are right, we may not need to carry our own food. We can just put in a replicator and boom,
yes.
push a button on the wall and you get tacos.
So if we get there, I could go for a good taco. What's that, Frederick? No, I mean it's right now. Right now we have the technology to go anywhere we want. It's the problem is we don't want to go anywhere. It's expensive. And but Elon, because Elon's a visionary, Elon's going to be to get out to the asteroid belt and start mining those high end things. He's going to be the first trillionaire ever to be on the planet. I mean, if somebody don't stop him, that's where he's going. He's going to go. He's talking about dragging that asteroid to Mars, crashing it on Mars, which will actually help to densen the atmosphere on the planet. And they'll be able to set up things, shop right there on Mars with low gravity, and be able to do all they need to get all that stuff mined out and then just ship it back to Earth. I mean, we're talking trillions of dollars here. I mean, the one asteroid we're talking about, there's all the value of the planet combined is not even 1/10 of what it's worth.
Yeah.
Everything. Yeah. I mean, including our planet, everything is 1/10 of the worth of this one asteroid. Just think if you're the guy who gets it. I know. And there's not just one, there's other ones. That titanium, it was like 4 different metals they found in it, was worth, I think, something like $900 billion or yeah, I think it was right around $900 billion. But titanium's not that expensive anymore. It used to be, but now it's not for some reason.
Now that we know the secret of how to make it.
It's no, it used to be very expensive, but it's not. It's down to a few dollars an ounce now. I'd have to look it up. The other night I looked it up for a different reason. Yeah, I was kind of like, wow, that's kind of cheap. Well, anyway, so the different types of aliens out there that are doing milling around, doing whatever. Now we're actually starting to see their homeworlds. Now, do they know we're looking at their homeworlds? That's a question I couldn't answer. But because we're just shooting waves through their atmosphere from the James
If they're
Webb.
monitoring our news broadcasts, they probably hear about this stuff.
But if they're just monitoring it without having a satellite here, they're getting 300-year-old news. So that's the other weird thing.
The fact that they're here on the planet.
Well, that's different. It's what do you mean, Raymond? There may be. See, for me, I don't think aliens would feel comfortable living on Earth. Maybe in one of their ships, maybe under the sea, maybe in space. But you F up one time here, we got you. You're gonna be dissected in a matter of minutes. Oh yeah, we're not gonna play around with you. You're gonna get dissected. Because humans are stupid. We're not even gonna think it might start a galactic war. We're just gonna dissect you.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Yeah, that's Xi Jinping. That's Asian. I couldn't tell you if they're going to do it or not. It's that's up to them to do. Yeah, I can't stop or make another government think about how they're going to judge an alien when they capture one, if they capture one, for that matter. Because really and truly, let's say you're a gray and you're out there taking people, and by some miracle, one of the governments capture you, or you're going to be stupid enough to dissect this thing knowing that his other friends may be nearby, or you're just not going to give a shit and do it anyway because they're a threat to us and we want to make sure we have a way to kill them. That's not my question. I can't answer that for any government. All I can say is I would hope, as long as they're friendly, that we would talk to them first and see what's going on. Well, if they're evil trying to kill us, it's different.
Government agency that's kill first, ask questions later.
Yeah, that's the problem. There is governments that kill first, ask questions later, and we can't risk those kind of government. Well, look at Joe Biden. Joe Biden would be one of the first ones to dissect an alien. I don't even have any doubt that he would just do it. I don't even know if he would know that he was doing it. That's the scary part. I'm thinking that he would just be doing what he was told,
or he'd invoke some sort of religious belief and not believe in the whole damn thing.
That's true too. Well, us Catholics don't believe in aliens. You know, man, they're aliens, and we can't have aliens around here because they're aliens, man.
Yeah.
They're aliens. But we let illegal aliens in. Why can't we let other illegal aliens? And these are just from different worlds instead of the same planet.
Mm-hmm.
So shouldn't we have the same policy if we let illegal aliens in from the South America? Shouldn't we allow them in from different worlds?
Democratic Party, Republican, or Democratic voting card and send them to the voting polls.
Well, I'm just thinking we should allow them in from other worlds. That's all. I mean, if we can do that here, why not let them come in?
Rumor
and say,
has
hey,
it they're already here, staying in top secret bases in places.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I have a hard time with that for some reason. It's because I look at it a different way. So I look at it like if I was the alien. Okay, let's say I was the extraterrestrial. I don't want to live in some trumped up military base when I got a nice spaceship parked in orbit that I can go snooze out in and not have to worry about somebody trying to dissect my ass in the morning. It's I would be just a little worried that that's the way this may play out. What's that, Janine? Well, no, I mean, think about it. So you're an extraterrestrial visiting planet Earth, and they offer you to come stay in one of their deep, dark bases. Really? You're going to go get in that elevator and go down 180 flights with these idiots and not be able to get back? No, that ain't happening. I wouldn't do it. And I'm not even that intelligent of an alien. So, I mean, no, I mean, because would you trust? Let me ask you this: as a human, would you trust going deep, dark, 180 feet underneath 180 stories underneath the planet with your government? Would you? Would you feel that comfortable? I don't give a shit what government it is. America, Russia, China, it doesn't matter. Would you feel comfortable enough to go down there, not knowing what was down there, just to go down there and have a chat with your government, right? Bullshit. Don't even lie to me, people. I know better than this. Y'all be like, no, you're not taking me. Where's Martha at? Huh? You're not taking me. Oh, damn, Martha's not out here. Y'all lucky. But no, really and truly. Yeah. What's that, Kareem? No, Martha is my 9mm. She's just not here right now. She's off vacation or something. I don't know. She shot too many people. She needed a vacation. Oh yeah, when I was special forces in the Middle East, I don't know. She shot like 185 people or something. What can I say? The gun was trigger happy. Don't hate me. I wasn't the one pulling the trigger. The gun was doing it. Yes. People, calm down. All right. Anyway, moving on.
That's how all mass shootings begin.
So if we look right now from the information we get from the James Webb Telescope and the Hubble Telescope, we have now found a dozen or more planets that suggest that there is life other than us nearby. Now, the Dyson spheres, of course, I'd have to go look, but I thought they were at least 100,000 light years out. So I'd have to look it up to be 100% sure. I actually have it somewhere. I'm just on the wrong computer to pull it up. But let's talk about these ones that could be anywhere from 200 light years, or if we want to say there's something approximate, anywhere from 5 light years away to 5,000 light years away. So it makes a big difference how far it is. I mean, if they're only 5 light years away, then they're not much different than we are. I mean, if the planetary scan shows that they're not much different than we are, then they're probably not. But if they're 5,000 light years out and we're seeing stuff in their atmosphere like we have, well, by the time we actually get to talk to them, they're 5,000 years older.
Yeah.
So are they still at the same technological levels we are? And if they are, that would be damn scary. You'd want to know why. I mean, we're not in 100 years. We won't be where we are right now. Just look. I mean, I've been around on the planet for a couple of days. If I go back, say, just 50 years and look around to compare today, it's a much different place. Nobody had one of these. Nobody even dreamed about one of these. Nobody thought we were going to have Captain Kirk in our hand. Nobody did.
Just think about going back 100 years to 1924. Alcohol is illegal. Most of the people on the planet still use horses. There's I don't know how much road, but there's not that much road. Cars have only been around 15 years.
Most of the Asian world and India are starving.
Yeah.
It's a different world than it is today. Today's a different world. You mean India? India's coming along. China's a little more financially better off than India is, but you mean, is there a reason? There's a reason, but that's for the political show. Yeah. Ask me that question on Friday night, and I will explain to you what the difference between India right now and China is right now. Well, I always told people that it wouldn't take India long to pass China population-wise, and they did about 5 years ago. And eventually they will pass them financially wise, but only because the U.S. allies in the U.S. will keep dumping money there. Yeah, if they were to do that to China, China would have already bloomed into the greatest thing that ever existed on the planet. Mm-hmm. They had the potential. It's just they're going to have to get rid of their current government. The world don't trust their current government. So, no, it's not an alien government. You know what? It depends on the aliens. So aliens might contact anybody. They could contact the Russians because they prefer that kind of government. But Russia and the United States both have republics. So maybe not. They're maybe not run the same way. But yeah, and I'm not exactly sure about that right now. And China's communist from the middle up. Yeah. Well, aliens might like that. They might think communist is right, or they might think this is right. Or that. So put it this way. So we do believe at the turn of the century before the last that the Germans were contacted by the human type aliens. And there's a reason for this. And first off, the Germans were the most advanced race on the planet at 1900. Not America, not Europe, not Russia, not China. It was Germany by far, actually. Germany was quite a bit ahead of everybody at the start of World War I. When it started World War II, they were quite a bit. America was playing catch up the entire war. And we did.
Yeah, but we just need so much more manufacturing power. We just brutalized them. That's the only way we won.
Yeah. And then, of course, all during World War II, we had Foo Fighters flying around, which even today, we can't just tell you what a Foo Fighter is. So the Foo Fighters used to fly loop-de-loops around ships and disappear and come back. Well, we have drones now that can fly loop-de-loops and do stuff like that, but they can't disappear at speeds that we can't even track. We just don't have anything like that yet. And even with the SR-72 coming out, which is going to be a hypersonic jet at Mach 6 plus, it still couldn't do that. No hypersonic missiles we have, nothing we have, no ballistic missiles, nothing we can have moved as fast as those Foo Fighters did. So this is what now? We're going 60, 80, almost 90 years since then, and still we can't reproduce those particular things. So that tells you right off the bat it was something other than earthly. And there's other times, like when both Russia and the United States had their nuclear bases shut down. Yeah, these aren't rumors. These are facts.
There's Foo Fighter stories of the Foo Fighters helping the Allies, Foo Fighters helping the Germans and the Japanese. And on both sides thought it was the other side. If you were in the European theater, you thought they were Germans. If you were German, you thought they were Americans, and vice versa in the Japanese theater. It's just they were. I don't know if I would say instrumental, but they were assisting certain people to win the war.
Go Foo Fighters. What's that, Jackie? Nobody knows what they were. Nobody knows who they belonged to. Pilots, American pilots used to say they were the funniest thing they ever saw because they would come up in a green light behind them moving at speeds. Even jets don't move today. And then they would get to the tail and they would do this. Like, this is the plane. They would do this around the plane while the plane was flying. It would do this. And then it would get in front of the plane. Here's the cockpit and stop and just stay there and move along with the speed of the plane, which back then were props, weren't jets. And it would do this, and then it would just, and then it would come back.
12, 20 cylinder circular engines.
Yeah, I mean, it was ridiculous how fast these things move. And even today, we can't reproduce this. And nobody likes to ask questions about them. And then just recently in Russia and in the United States, so in the United States a couple of years back, there was a sighting 50 years ago from that particular date. There was a sighting of 4 UFOs over the White House. This happened again 50 years later to the date. There was a UFO sighted over the White House. They even scrambled F-16s for it because they didn't know what it was. And then it was gone. Well, same thing happened at St. Petersburg.
What did they scramble in 52, 53? P-89 Sabres?
Yeah. Well, this also happened in St. Petersburg on the same days at the same times. Now, remember, we're in different time zones. So why is that? Why are they doing? It's almost like it was on, and it wasn't in Moscow. That's what bothered me. So when they did it here, they did it at our capital. When they did it there, they did it at St. Petersburg, which is probably their religious capital, not their
And it would
military.
also used to be the original capital of the country.
So I mean, they basically showed that look, you're not messing with us. We're going to do whatever the hell we want, whenever the hell we want to. You mean to date? Technically, they've lost track of sightings. It's well over 100,000 sightings worldwide now. And United States alone is probably 25 or 30,000. The best place when you can find them is the Larry Hatch database, because he was marking from 1940 to 2000, and he's got them where you can overlap them and see how they're moving and stuff. Well, they're great because when you're tracking people who have had sightings or had abductions, you can look at the maps and see if these are areas where there's been high traffic. Yeah. You mean the James Webb Telescope? So the James Webb is the planet, my little finger right here, and it's shooting a beam that's going through. And it's coming through the atmosphere. So as the planet's turning, this beam is going through the atmosphere and it's registering the chemicals it finds in the atmosphere. So it found a couple of different types of carbons in the atmosphere, all of which are only made due to like burning engines or burning fires or flying jets or stuff like that. There was levels of carbons there. So it suggests that at least that time frame on that planet, when we're looking at it, their technology was around our technology today. But again, this particular one I'm talking about right now is 5,000 light years out, which means we were looking at it 5,000 years ago, not today. Yes, when you're looking through a telescope in distances in space, you're time traveling backwards. Mm-hmm. Yes, it's. I don't make the rules.
Yeah, I mean, it takes 8 minutes for light ejected from the sun to hit Uranus. 8 minutes. It takes was it 2 minutes to hit us or 4 minutes? 4 minutes for us.
Yeah, I think it's 4 minutes, but it's still it's for the sun traveling at light speed. It's ridiculous. What is that, Mark? You mean in? What are you talking about? No, it's like 144,000 or 187,000. I have to go look. It's been a while since I looked. Jay might know what the speed of light is, but
186,000.
Yeah, see, I was right there. No, it's hauling ass is what it is, and it's per second, not per mile.
186,000 feet per second. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, I think I always just rounded up to 187,000. It's
yeah.
I mean, it's phenomenal speeds, and it still would take at that speed. It would still take 4 light years to get to the Proxima Centauri system, which is the closest one to us. I think Proxima B is technically like 3.875 light years, but
there's also logistics we don't know about light or time travel, space travel. What if you do travel at the speed of light? When do you slow down? 2 light years away? 1 light year? I mean,
and that's the other problem: speeding up and slowing down. So if speed up and slow down is not instantaneous, then you're losing all kind of time. So if let's say it takes you 6 months to build up to the light speed, just light speed. Well, on Earth, 15 years has passed.
Mm.
When you go to slow down at Proxima, if you have to slow down and takes you, say, 6 months, again, 30 light years have passed. And if you have to do this again on a round trip, 60 light years have passed. So in order for this to actually work, it has to pop off and stop. There can't be any lag on either end, or the closer you get to light speed, the slower time goes. So if you're sitting at, say, 80% light speed, when you come back to Earth, I mean, you're talking thousands of years have passed. Oh yeah, it would. See, this is one of the risky things about putting ships out in space like this and putting cryogenics in it. Odds are, let's say the planet's 1,000 light years away. At traveling so close to the speed of light, it's slowing down. It's the speed here. The odds are that we will end up passing up that ship with the ship way faster before it ever gets to its destination because of the way things progress. So here, if it's 1,000 light years away and it's doing 90% of light speed, I mean, you're talking 10,000 years, 100,000 years. So odds are we're going to pass that ship or stop along the way. Oh, look, remember these people we launched? Let's pick them up and bring them with us because they probably got another 10,000 years to go. Well, that's part of it. I mean, that's really part of how all this works. So you have to take all this in consideration when you're talking about space travel.
You're right. It absolutely has to work like Star Trek. Like you leave today, go visit planet Klingon, spend a week, and then come back, and then it's a week later here.
That's
Not
where we go visit Planet Eileen. It's oh wait, there's Leah. Hey Leah, what you doing, sweetie? Whoa, it's an alien in the presence of us. We all hail to the alien. All hail to the alien.
I'm just checking in to say hi.
That's cool.
Nice to see you guys.
We were just talking about aliens named Leah. That's all we were doing.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
and how come they like eating people on the planet? That scared us a little tiny bit, like what's that, Jackie? They don't like guys. Thank guys they only like eating women. All right.
On what planet?
This planet.
Earth.
This planet. We were talking about Leah.
Are you talking about adrenochrome conspiracies?
No, we're not. Yeah. Anyway, people, ladies and gentlemen, how y'all doing tonight? So what you been up to, Miss Leah?
I'm getting ready to go try and find something to do right now with.
You want to go blow some shit up? Who. Yes, y'all gonna go blow some shit up?
Maybe.
Don't go to jail.
So, I want to.
Don't go to jail.
I just wanted to call and check. I wanted to call and check in and say hi and say.
Yes, we're just chatting about different types of aliens, different types of worlds.
What kind of aliens?
Well, right now we were actually just talking about where aliens are in our nearby solar system. What James Webb has
unknowns
found.
At this point.
Yeah, because James Webb says they have found life on other planets, at least 6 other planets, and have found Dyson spheres on at least 7 other planets.
And Dyson spheres are energy creators?
No, Dyson, they can be, yeah.
It's a man-made structure, whatever it is. So it has been created.
Jay and I broke down the 2 types that we know of, which is one where the sun's in the middle and there's a dirt going all the way around, and then the other one where there's actually a mini solar system inside of it. So those are the 2 we were talking about. And what gets me is our actual NASA and Russia and China and all the people agree that they think we found the Dyson sphere.
Oh yeah, they're saying there's some structure that they found on some other distant
mega structures.
Planet, another distant spatial planetary body.
Yeah, they actually think one of them they found that they're actually still building because it changes.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah. So when they first found it,
evidence and all of these photographs and all of these videos and all of the people talking about it in Congress, and there's still people who question whether or not life outside of this reality and this physical realm
because
exists.
One, you have
Leah, there's still flat earthers out there.
Oh yeah, and you have your religious basis of people, and even some of the spiritual people are all thinking, no, this is it.
Yeah.
There's no other place but here.
Yeah, the
I don't know why they think that, but people sometimes need to feel like this is it. There's nothing else we have to worry about. There's nobody going to come tear our country, our worlds up and blow us up from space or sell us for slaves or something. Nobody wants to think that. They want to think that we're the most advanced thing in the cosmos, which is it's just stupid. There's no way by any means we're the most advanced thing in the cosmos. Not even close. If even half of the rumors are true about the types of aliens the government's had to deal with, I mean, we're so far down the evolutionary trail that we're just like basically puppies.
Or insects to them.
Yeah. Well, I think they think we're like puppies because the Gray's like, let me pet you on the head, You're just a good little girl. Yes, you are. Or you're just a good little boy. And that's what the Grays do. They're just like, because, I mean, come on, how? It's like, okay, let's do this a different way. Let's say we send Leah to deep, dark Africa where there's still tribes there. How are you going to explain all your technology to them while you're there if they don't eat your ass first?
Right.
I mean, you're going to walk in with cameras and guns and lighters and all sorts of stuff, GPS that connects to space so you can talk to people around the world. They're not going to know how to deal with that. Even here in where are we, 2024? They're still not going to know how to deal with that. Same thing in South America or the tribe that eats people. You know, the ones living on the island. I mean, you know, come on. Sooner or later, you got to kind of wonder. Look, all right, how advanced are we, and how advanced are they? Sometimes there's just no way for them to look at us and understand who we really are. And it's going to be the same thing with the aliens. We're going to be going, wow, how did they do that? How does that work? What the hell? How does that work? Or when they cure us with this little thing where they go, zzz, and you're cured all of a sudden. You know, we're going to be like, wait, what the was that?
There's also the ultra scary side of things Stephen Hawking spoke about.
I hear they like.
Or was it Hawking or the other guy, the billions and billions guy? Anyway, what they said was, we may find alien life that's so alien we don't recognize it as life, and that could be very dangerous especially if it's in a very aggressive life form, and we don't recognize it as life form, and we just go, oh, you know, that's just a fungus, and then you turn your back, and all of a sudden, boom, now you're a fungus.
Yeah, or a silicon-based life form. I mean, there's just things that we're not quite ready for yet as a species. What's that, Jimmy? You mean, do I think there's aliens living on a planet and maybe in a spaceship? I just said they don't want to go live 80 stories underground. Do you, Jimmy? You want to go live 80 stories underground with your government? Well, do you want to go down with your military and go down 80 stories?
They live on the surface of the planet, somewhere near the base Area 52, northwest.
And that's a tall white guy, and I think
tall white aliens. Yes, Arcturians.
The area. What's Jim Hall say? 52. James Hall, 50. I actually think it's 53. It's
Area 53 is where the Arcturians are, but it's very near Area 52, the northwest corner of Nellis.
What are you talking about, Jack? No. So 51, 52, and 53. Actually, there's more than that. I think it goes up to like 60. But anyway, these are sections out there that cover 2 states that are no-fly zones that belong to the United States government. And it's not always that the U.S. military is in charge. So like Area 51, I believe it's CIA controlled. It's either CIA or
the airport is CIA controlled. What do they call it now?
What's that, Frankie?
Homie Ranch, I think is what they're calling it now.
Yeah. And hey, Drew, how you doing, man? And then Area 53 is where Charles Hall was, where they've got another base. Well, they do a lot of flying through there, and they like owning all that territory in case something goes down. So we're going to be testing the new SR-72 Blackbird soon. We want somewhere, if it crashes, we can recover it. We don't want it going down in Russia or China, where they might decide to use that technology. It's we want to crash it somewhere we can recover it, just like our new space. So our new Gen 6 fighters go into space. So I feel for anybody fighting against us now. So these things can go up now and go into space and spot a group of fighters like Russian or Chinese flyers flying. It can come down from high atmosphere at supersonic speeds and just unleash on them before they've ever been seen. Yeah, these particular jets compared to anything else on the planet will be undefeatable. It's bad enough they can't really defeat the SR-70. No, I mean the Blackbird, the Raptor.
F-22.
Yeah, I don't know what they call the F-35. I don't think they ever gave it a name, did they? F-22 is the Raptor. It's a beast.
Well, the F-35 is a multi-platform. It's in the Navy and the Air Force.
No, Navy can't use them. You can't land them on ships.
I thought they still had some land-based ones, though.
Oh, they might have some land-based ones. They do have several land bases. They might have some land bases. I'd never looked, to be honest with you. So, Jimmy, the military, or Boeing, built an airplane for the Navy that
F-35 Lightning II
can't land the Lightning, so that it can't land on an aircraft carrier. No, it would rip the back of the jet off. Yeah, it cannot land. So right now, plus their wings don't fold. So you can't land this thing on an aircraft carrier unless they're vertical takeoff. Then you can land them. There are several F-35s of vertical takeoff.
We do have some vertical takeoff carriers out there.
Yeah, those are Harrier carriers. Yeah,
there.
And most of them belong to the Marine. But no, I mean, who thought that was a good idea? Because they were supposed to be a multi-role for all 4 militaries, and they ended up not being that. Actually, I heard something. I was telling this to Jay the other day. I heard something from the Pentagon about this carrier group will be the last carrier group ever built. At least these type of carriers, anyway.
Yeah.
There may be space carriers, there may be other types, but these are.
Well, it just gives more prudence to the theory that they're trying to build a helicarrier, a flying aircraft platform.
Well, they're going to be building these ships that can launch 100,000 drones at a time, and be controlled from the ship. Mm-hmm. Instead of putting fighters in the sky with our people in it, they're going to do it this way. Well, we're going to see what happens. I've been listening to the captain of the ship that's in the Middle East right now in the Red Sea, and he's talking about. He said, "No, we're holding our own." He said, "But this is a different kind of war." And he said, our jets don't need these type of weapons. They need like scatter weapons so they can take out lots of planes and lots of drones at a time. They're not really going up against jets. They're going up against drones.
You need something that shoots like a shotgun blast, hit several targets at once.
Well, the problem is the drones aren't fast enough to catch the fighter jets, but they are fast enough to catch it with the ships. So there's a lot of stuff like that.
Any land-based troops.
What do you mean? Why don't the aliens interfere? So we're going to
Your
go
mic's
through this
muted,
real
Leah.
quickly. So, hello, Leah. Leah, your mic is muted, Leah.
There we go.
There we go. Yes.
If you hear the loud rumblings of a very nice sports car, that's what you're hearing.
Wow, what are you driving?
She should not be allowed to drive anything.
What are you driving?
Especially if it's got 18 wheels.
Oh, I'm just enjoying the ride.
She's along for the ride.
What is it? What kind of car?
She's riding along. She's chilling. What's that, Christopher? Actually, to be honest with you, the type of aliens they say have visited planets, anybody's guess. The ones the organization researches are grays, reptilians, and humans, but there could be several other things visiting the planet, hanging out. It's hello, people of Earth. We love you, people of Earth. We love you, people of Earth. No, actually, I'll get back to what we were talking about, but it's so to prove a point to you, when you go back and look in our past, when the United States dropped 2 bombs on Japan, did any extraterrestrials intervene? Ooh, I'd be a big fat no. So
they were on hand to observe, but they didn't intervene.
So when Chernobyl went poof, did any aliens intervene? Oh, that would be no. So then when 3 Mile Island, which was a decade later, when it went sort of poof, did any aliens intervene? That would be another big fat poof. And just recently, in a more notable time, Fukushima, with poof, and still is polluting Oregon and Washington's coast. Did any aliens interfere? That would be another big no. What do you mean? So you think the aliens interfered for the turnout in World War II? Is that what you're saying? Well, why didn't they just kill Hitler early on, and that would have been the end of that? Or Mussolini? Or who was president of Russia at the time?
Brezhnev? Was it Brezhnev?
Honestly, I don't remember. It's World War II. So, but no, they didn't. They didn't get involved in any of this. They have shut nuclear silos down. We have at least, so in the United States, that I can think of right offhand, there's been 6 occasions when flying saucers, we'll call them instead of UFOs, have pulled up at nuclear silo facilities and shut the facilities down. So we thought this was just an American thing, and we thought maybe the Russians were doing this. Then it was leaked out of Russia that this had happened. Yeah, this had happened at least 6 times in Russia. Was it Stalin? Okay.
Yeah, it was Stalin.
So it was leaked out. So when America, I can't remember when it was. I think it was like in the 72 or 73 times this happened. They had contacted Russia and talked to them, and Russia said, no, we're having the same issue. We thought it was some weapon you invented. So there's been a couple of times that the United States and Russia have talked over the years saying, look, there's some funky monkey business going on, and it's not us. Now, today, China gets into the conversation a little more often, but not as much as it should. Because the problem with including China means we have to include India. No, India is in the Asian world. Oh, yes, yeah, I'm sorry, but it is.
India and Pakistan are on the Asian continent.
Yes, I'm sorry, my friend, but it is. I'm not saying Indians are Asians. I'm saying they're on the continent. That's not. I didn't put them there. Don't hate on me. No, don't hate on me. But anyway, so
Well, if
maybe
you look
all
on
these
if you look on any kind of form that you like, a job employment form applications, you don't see Pakistani. It says Asian.
yeah. So
Indians are Asians,
I know.
yes, but they don't like being
just like
called
Russians
that.
are Asians.
Yes,
But they don't
Russians are
like
Asian
being called
too.
that. Russians like to be called white people.
Yeah.
Racist son of a bitches that
Technically,
they
they're
are.
Asian. Hell, some white Russians actually have almost Japanese eyes because they're
Well,
on
it's funny. I know, and
the
I'm gonna
continent.
save this. I'm gonna save most of this for Friday night. But a good friend of mine the other day was asking me, "What do Asians consider themselves as far as colors go? White, brown, or black?" And I was like, "Well, you'd have to ask them that question." Matter of fact, I've learned because I have several Asian friends that it varies from person to person to person.
And culture to culture, like the
Yes,
Vietnamese
yes,
look at me.
Frankie, it does.
Yeah,
No, it
look,
doesn't matter. They could be whiter than I am and still not consider themselves that color.
the
It doesn't
Vietnamese
matter. But
consider
the
themselves
aliens,
brown.
but in all fairness to y'all people, the aliens don't give a shit what color you are. They don't discriminate based on color or sex or hair or anything else.
Just
They
on
probe you,
stupidity.
yeah. If your family line was one of the original family lines, then you're getting taken. Um, what's that, James? Do I think there's reptilians living inside of Earth? All I
When you
know.
say if your family line is one of the original family lines, what do you mean by that? Like one of the original human
So
inhabitants of the earth?
sometime in the past, maybe 10,000, maybe 20,000, maybe 100,000, maybe 200,000. Sometime in the past is when the aliens started abducting us. Sometime after the reptilians merged with the humans and the Sumerians and the Nemos, the Dogon story. So sometime in there, they merged together, and then after that, the aliens decided which of these groups are telepathic, and that's the families they started abducting from, and they've been ever since. And since families expand like everything else, you really didn't need anybody else because your family's expanding. Back then it might have been 10 kids. Those 10 kids might have had 40 kids. Those 40 kids might have had 100 kids. Those 100 kids may have had 500 kids. Those 500 kids may have had 1,500 kids. Those 1,500 kids may have had 15,000 kids, and so on and so forth till you get to now when there's 8 billion of us. So according to all the researchers on the planet who do abduction research, they say that 15% of the population has been taken. That's 1.5 billion people have been taken. So you do the math on it and figure it out. It is a huge number. It doesn't mean they're all being taken. I mean, they're all being taken at one time, but it means at some point they have been taken or will be taken. Frank starts before birth and goes till you die. Mm-hmm.
I've been told something completely opposite, that there's like less than 200 abductees, like 130.
So no, it's way more than that. The U.S. government was shocked when they found out with the Greada Treaty and Eisenhower's talks to them how many people they abduct per year.
Yeah, I can imagine it's probably been a lot more.
Well, we have 119,000 cases in the organization, so that tells you how many are just in the group that we deal with.
And think about all the people who disappear and never, ever, ever reappear.
Yep, and even in this group, you have to think of how many people we went through to get to this 119,000. Probably well over 300,000 just to get to the 119,000 we are right now. It's one of those things. I mean, we would be doing this. If people said, "Well, I don't understand why would they do this?" Because we would do this if we found a race out there that we could get back and forth to, just like we did with the Africans and the South Americans. We'd do the same thing. We'd go visit their culture. We'd watch them for a while. We'd try to blend in where we could, and eventually we would introduce ourselves to their culture and start including them in, just like we did everything else on Earth. It would follow suit to the way it happened here. The only thing is I would hope that we learn something different than the way we treated the Africans and the South Americans, and the Indians for that matter. Come on. What did we get Manhattan for again?
Like a prayer beads or something like that?
Yes. So I would think, hopefully we would be more fair with them when we found them. But in the same respect, we have to hope whoever finds us is the same way, that they treat us with respect and not just try to, snow us over with a bunch of bullshit and and take our planet, or just take over our who we are, or help make us worship another god, for that matter. So all of that stuff, because when you see the aliens doing their thing full blown, a lot of people are going to think they're gods. A lot of people are going to think they're gods. So we're going to have to deal with that as well. How many, why do we think they're gods? What do you do with a race that has the power to make people think they're gods, even if they're not trying to?
Where did the concept of God come from? Allegedly, the aliens put that concept in our early ancestors. Because where would they have that idea before? What were they worshiping before? There was no worship before.
Well, I don't know what there was before. Before 6,000 years ago,
there's no worship. There's no gods.
Yeah, before 6,000-7,000 years ago, I have no idea what was going on. Even though we know there were cities here before that, and we know that our civilization, as we call it, is at least 12,500 years old. We can only prove writing for 6,000 years. Even though we know, we can see writings on these other temples and there are these other cities, but it's not a recorded history of any kind. And these cities were found off the coast of India. India says in their writings that they know about these cities, and these cities had been lost, and they thought they'd been lost in a different way.
Not lost, destroyed.
Yeah, and but they weren't destroyed; they were just submerged. That's the really funny part.
Being destroyed, though, big wave comes by and sinks your city. That's destruction.
But there was no damage like that. It seems like the city's just sunk. Like actually, let me rephrase that. It doesn't seem like they sunk. It seems like the water around them just rose, and it's been rising ever since. Because it wasn't that far under when the tsunami pulled out to find them. That's another thing that bothers me. They found it was tsunami. Nobody dove around there. Nobody went diving or anything before that and seen these cities. They just found another something off the coast of Cuba that they're pretty sure is around 15,000 years old. And we've been finding artifacts washing up on the Florida coast, which nobody knows why all of a sudden it's happened in the last decade, that are from a civilization that no one knows of. And if you go by the pyramid shots of the sunken city off the coast of Cuba, those pyramids are 4 or 5 times the size of the ones in Giza and 10,000 years older.
Yep.
So, who the hell was these people?
And far more elaborate.
Yeah, far more elaborate. So and then all of a sudden, the United States hands it over to Canada and Cuba and says, we don't want to be involved, which I find that just funny to start off with.
Uh-huh.
It's, and then all of a sudden they start pulling pictures off the web left and right. Thank God there was 2 pictures I kept as there were screenshots. And I'm just grateful I kept them because there wouldn't be, it's hard to find any pictures in the sunken. There's a couple you can find, but not very many. But there's 2 sunken cities off the coast of Cuba. There's one inside the bay on the far side of Cuba, and there's one on the Key West side of Cuba in about 900 feet of water. There's 2 of them. And they're pretty advanced cities. So the way I found out about them is a good friend of mine drives a yellow submarine, and he was down there working in the Caribbean, and he got pulled in on the gig. So he started sending me information on a regular basis, pictures and things like that. And he was down there, I think, for 5 years with them. So there was a lot that they found, but nothing really made the press. And even he said that sometimes he was on there. He would come on and talk to me in the support group room and tell me about some of the shit they had been seeing. He said, I don't understand why it's not all over the place. But it wasn't being talked about. Nobody really seemed to care. Let me rephrase that. Nobody on the site seemed to be wanting to make it really public. It makes you wonder what is it they actually found that they don't want to make public. And then there's been stuff found inside the U.S., that one Spanish helmet that started at the beginning of Spain. They're like, how the hell did this get here? And then there's some that they found later in time that still they don't know how they got here because they were before the conquistadors that went to South America. So where'd the helmet come from? They were living with the Pueblos in where is that? Arizona, New Mexico. I think it was Colorado actually. And nobody knows how the hell it got there. And then we've got whole cities built in the sides of mountains where nobody lives anymore. They just left.
Yeah.
No graves, no nothing.
Is
They
it
just left.
The Anasazi that's disappeared, the homes and buildings in the cliffs. Is that Anasazi?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, but they just left. They're like, we're out of here. And they're not the only ones. We have South American cities that were just abandoned. They weren't destroyed. There was no graves or anything. So, you know, when people say, oh, it was a disease, well, if there's a disease, there's going to be graves. You know, so when there's no graves, it means they left. What is it? Tuk, I can't pronounce it. The one behind the Mexico City, the one that patterns the mountains. It was abandoned. It was a huge city. They said it had at least 300,000 people in it, and then just one night, everybody left.
Well, what about Pumapuku? Just the other side of things. A very advanced building on the top of a mountain, 3,000 feet above the tree level, that is completely and utterly destroyed.
Just, and then, you know, they just found another city just recently because they're always scanning the canopy down there. They just found another city.
Yeah.
And they just keep finding it. And they said it looks like eventually, originally the Toltecs started out and then they built all over. And I can't remember which was next, the Incas, Aztecs, and the Mayans, but all of them eventually connected, even though the other ones were leaving, they would connect to those territories. And eventually they just have one huge ass territory. And the buildings, a lot of them do look similar between Aztecs, Incas, and Mayans. Even though I think the Mayans might have been the more cruel of the bunch. Aren't they the ones that used to play basketball with your head?
It was more like it's more like soccer and basketball. You don't use your hands, but yes, you use the severed head of your enemy, and you use your knees and feet to kick it through a hoop.
Yeah, they had the hoops hanging off the side of the wall. And then, by the way, people, hoops are still there.
Yes, people still play the game.
It's they're just not allowed to cut your head off anymore.
Yeah, they use a leather ball now.
It's very strange. And then when you look at the Mayans, Aztecs, and Incans, just like when you look at the Sumerians, the Egyptian, and the Dogon, there seems to be a very strong tie to extraterrestrials. They talk about them. They talk about the people from the skies and the heavens. They get in great details. Both sets, and on completely different sides, completely different continents, on completely different sides of the world. And then you've got the problem that both the Egyptians and the other race decided to build pyramids. A lot of people think Atlantis sank, and then some of the Atlanteans went to Egypt and some of the Atlanteans went to South America. That may or may not be true because there are some commonalities between the types. But if that's true, then I would think that
the Mauryans went to Asia and India and Europe.
So if that's true, I would think that the reptilians ended up. So I'm thinking that on Atlantis, there was multiple aliens living there from different types. Because I would think that the reptilians went to the, some of them the ones that went to Africa flew there in a spaceship. But I would think some of them went to Egypt and some of them went to South America because a lot of South American stuff is designed around reptilians. A lot of the stuff you see in Egypt, when you hear them talk about the emperors with the heads that are this long, sounds just like a human head, a human alien head, because that's how a human alien is. They're long like this. They look like us in the face, but their heads are deep and long, whereas ours are like this.
Yeah, the only evidence of reptilians are in Iraq around Sumer, 6,000.
It's so I mean, it's one of those things you got to kind of wonder about on who the hell did it. What's that, Brucey? Well, because when you listen to people talk about the Egyptians, that's what they talk about, and they always say it was some type of disease. But when you check into the records of the disease and the way the mutations were, it wasn't exactly the way the disease did it. It was a little different. Yes, so that's what made it more interesting, is because the mutation's a little bit different, and it doesn't just affect the head; it affects other parts of the body. Well, this was not like that. This was like a human body with this deformed shaped head on it. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, there's Bob back here.
Well, it doesn't also. I'm talking about Akhenaten with the deformed head. Didn't he also have 6 fingers?
Yeah. And they talked about it. Some of the contactees talk about the aliens with 6 fingers and 6 toes. So there's groups out there that are talking about stuff that have been being found in recent science ahead of time. What's that, Jimmy? No, actually, we got to go in a few minutes. I didn't realize it was after 8. Yes.
I know.
Well, thank you for having me on, even though it was brief and fleeting.
Well, we like having Speedy aliens on. Yes.
Yeah.
We like having Speedy Gonzalez aliens on. The alien in the hot rod.
I'll see you later.
All right, be good,
Friday.
bro.
See you Friday.
Have fun. It's Jackie, that was Leah. She's she just comes and hangs out with us at different times. Yes. What do you mean, is she an alien? No, she's a contactee, apparently. 3 questions and then we got to go. What do you got? Who? We don't really talk about other ufologists on here if I can avoid it. If they don't talk about me, I try not to talk about them. All I can tell you is he was a historian. He went to America's College. And he split up with his ex-wife and with a new one. And they're doing some TV stuff together. I don't know any more than that. No, I don't. Actually, if you want to see Sean Air, what's his damn name? Anyway, Sean Hazlitt just had Whitley Strieber on Sunday. So the archive's available. You can go check it out and you can go listen to what's going on. Yeah, he was on. No, I didn't know it was as late as it was. Yeah. No. Anyway, what are you talking about? No, the government knows about aliens. They wouldn't be out there asking you about. I've been threatened. I've been threatened in front of witnesses at least 7 times. I was threatened once in front of 30 guys on a roof where I was putting a new roof on a building.
I was threatened by an unknown voice over the phone while a policeman was standing there taking the report of the menacing phone calls I was getting over this.
I was threatened at the casino. They didn't really bother me until they started threatening the wife and the kid. And that was a while back. I mean, we're talking 10 or 15 years ago. Today, so I'll tell you what they tell me. And this, you can hear this for yourself. These are in archives. They will call into an archive without calling anything else. They'll just break into the archive. And they'll say stuff like, Joe, we really appreciate what you're doing. We like that you find that information and you're putting facts out. Can you please stay away from the alien agenda? Can I ask you a question? I'm like, yeah. So then they'll ask some advanced question, some pretty hard stuff, and I'll answer it. And they're like, oh, thank you. We needed that to help with our research. Oh, yeah, they do it all the time. They do it on this show all the time. Oh, no. They threatened me. They walked on a job site and threatened me. And then they came to the casino and threatened me as we were walking in the door. Yeah. Threatened to disappear. One of their favorite things is, you drive a lot, 18-wheeler, poof, you're gone. Nobody will even care. That's one of their favorite threats. Mm-hmm. What do you mean? They better get it right the first time. Yeah, you're right about that. Because if not, I'm going after somebody. So real quick before we go, we do research people who say that they've had contact. We do request that they take a voice stress analysis. And if they can't recover all their memories, we do request that they take hypnosis. So we do a body language voice stress analysis in the first interview. And then the second interview, we'll do a voice stress body language hypnosis. It's as good as any FBI gig. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, because people who are telling the truth don't mind taking a polygraph or a voice stress. Generally, people who are lying or well, no, I don't really want to tell you that, or I don't trust you to give you all kind of things. Oh, this is not a true representation.
Yeah, people telling the truth. They want closure. They want everyone else to believe them. So any kind of evidence, lie detector test, that helps.
If this was a gray, its head would be about this much taller and about this much wider. Their heads are huge. It's not like this. Even though this is a cool representation, this is actually a representation of the alien skull that Lord Pi used to have, that they did all of the work on, that they had analyzed. So the first time they had it analyzed, it said that that the mother was definitely human, but they couldn't source who the father
They
was.
couldn't identify the male, yeah.
And then a couple more times after that, and then they said that they're pretty sure that it's not a mutation and that the father is unidentifiable, suggesting that it's not from around here. That's what they said. And so, I mean, it's been analyzed a few more times than that, and it does seem like that the father is, well, because at first they thought it was some type of mutation, and you do get weird mutations because in South America, there's a whole group down there, a big group down there that has a different skull than we have. Oh yeah, would suggest they were a mutation, and there are other mutations on our planet, but the majority of look and sound like the majority of us do. What country are you talking about? No, China gets reports just like America and every other country. Yeah, we don't get as many out of China because the government's a little bit stricter, but we still get quite a few out of there. Well, I got friends that live there that I talk to on a fairly regular basis, and they do kind of have to watch what they send me. And you know what's funny about it? The ones that live in Beijing seem to be a little stricter than the ones that live in Hong Kong. I'm not sure why. And as far as what they'll send me. But I always tell them be careful because I don't want them to disappear. And then from time to time, one or two of them will move to the United States. I don't know. They don't seem to be as strict as they used to be on people leaving their country. I mean, I can only go by my own personal experiences of people I personally deal with. And I haven't asked all of my friends how hard was it to move out of China. I guess one of these days I will, but I got to tell you this. So far, everybody I've met has been nice, polite, friendly, wanting to get ahead in the world. Yeah, they don't seem like they're looking to take over America, if that's what you're asking me.
Yeah, no, that's the government, not the
people. And a lot of them will defend their country, which can be aggravating for some people, but it is the thing you should do. If it's your country, you should defend your country. Even if they're making boo-boos. I mean, our country makes boo-boos all the time.
Yeah, I mean, they're also the oldest culture on the planet, too. So
yeah,
they have kind of a reputation to live up to.
Well, look at it from a different point. Until recently, China never bothered anybody except Mongolia. Not Mongolia. Wherever, what's his name lived? What the hell is he? The Dalai Lama. Other than that, they built a wall around their country and left the rest of the world alone. It wasn't until modern times that they started getting a little aggressive. Modern within the last decade or so. Mm-hmm. Well, she's got to be careful. He's got to save face. You mean an all-out war? No, they can't win an all-out war. No. First off, they don't have enough nukes. They have more ships, but it doesn't really matter. It's just like when the Soviet Union had more ships. They're not the same quality as the ships we got at sea. And we've also got 50 years of practice fighting. They got 0.
Yeah. Well, not 0, but not nearly as much as we got.
Well, I'm talking about in the last 75 or 80 years. They don't really have any. It's our people, America's trained to kill. Most of the world's not. Russia's starting to get some, but they're losing so many people. Well, China don't want to go to war. War is expensive. Yeah, you can get a wartime economy, but eventually that's going to end and you're going to find yourself broke. And what are they going to do? Piss off Europe more and the United States? Then they don't get any work. Right now, America's their third biggest customer. We used to be their first. And Europe used to be the second. I think Europe's like 5th. And we're moving down the list because we're slowly but surely cutting them off. Well, there's certain things that Western people don't tolerate. I have nothing to do with any of that. And I personally don't care about most of it. No. As long as they don't go back to their crazy ways of killing and murdering people, I don't really care what they do. No more Tiananmen Square stuff like that. I'm good.
Yeah, that was kind of scary.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's not who she is. She is he wants to be the savior of China. That's who he wants to be. And he can be if he can stop pissing off the rest of the planet. And that's just because he rubbed up with Russia, and Russia's in trouble with everybody. Yeah, so it's one of them things. But we got to go. We're not here to talk about that kind of stuff. Ask me those questions on Friday. Ask me those questions on Friday. You mean about Kamala Harris? Ask me those questions on Friday. I love Kamala. I'm voting for Kamala. What are you talking about? All hail the Kamala. All hail the... All right, maybe not, but
No.
We'll talk about that. And we'll talk about Michelle Obama. And we'll talk about the whole bunch of them. We'll talk about the new polls. We'll talk about Trump might be getting out of these 34 cases, thanks to the Supreme Court. We'll talk about all of that stuff. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about how we feel about it. Do we think it's a good thing? Do we think it's a bad thing? All of that good stuff. And there's always tons of news. Yeah, there's always tons of news. You mean, so I think China, just like Russia and the United States, if they got their hands on some serious technology, would, of course, keep it and backwards engineer it. I don't think they're going to share it with the world. We're not going to share it with the world. Russia's not going to share it with the world. Even though Russia and China allies, they're not going to share it. They're going to keep it. Yeah, I mean, no, it shouldn't be like that. I agree, but it is like that right now. Eventually, things will change, and we'll become a nicer planet and a nicer group of people.
That would be good.
You mean in a war? We'd have to wait and see about that. Well, it all depends. I mean, China's like America or Russia. Yeah, they're powerful, but they have a lot of enemies. So it really just depends how many enemies show up knocking on your door.
Yeah, and if we do escalate to any kind of war, they keep saying it's going to be unlike any kind of war we've ever seen before.
Yeah, and then
I'm sure our government's going to unleash a few top secret things in order to win the war.
Yeah, and then you'll see India and China getting into it on their borders, which will tie up a lot of China's money and China resources, which will freeze up America to bomb the shit out of anybody they want to. Yeah, so it's a dangerous game. That's why nobody wants to play it. It's just dangerous. It's a dangerous game. What, you mean if Joe Biden's president? No, China won't have nothing to worry about. China be like, who's president? Oh, we can go do whatever we want. Yeah, if it was up to Trump, he'd give Taiwan back. I mean, not Trump, Biden. That's for Friday. Ask me about Taiwan on Friday. Yes. We'll talk about it. We talk about all of this stuff every week, about who's doing what, what's doing who's. I don't hate. Okay, before we go, I don't hate any world leaders. No. I think all of them could use a serious attitude adjustment, but I don't hate any of them. No, I don't. But on that note, we got to go say hi to any aliens that show up at your house. Give them a big hug from me and Jay. Ask them. Oh, they do like, they said strawberry ice cream. That's not true. They like chocolate ice cream with chocolate chips on top. Yes, they do. Anyway, good night, everyone. And be sure you check out The Outer Realm with Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano. Until Friday, have some fun and enjoy your life. Remember, if you're coming to see us Friday night, bring your links with you, bring your attitudes with you, bring whatever you want to talk about with you. It's a different kind of show than this one is. It's a little more fast-paced than this one. And God knows what we're going to talk about.
There's a lot.
It's a lot. Well, there's 5 hosts, too, so not always, but... Well, before I go, if you're a member of the network or you're a long-time contributor to the network, you can come on the show and talk with us. Yes. Or if you're a personal friend of one of us, you can also come on the show and talk with us. Well, it's an open format show. It was designed like that so that people could come on and enjoy themselves, get out their politics, spit out whatever they believe and what they don't believe, because we're not there to hate. We're there to just really, for the most part, report the news, report the polls, and tell you what we personally feel about it, but we're not really there to hate. Well, mainly because I got friends all over the place and I don't want to hate on them. Yes. Asia is a big place, Michael. We'll talk about it, but Asia is not just China. Asia is a big ass place with lots of countries in it and lots of stuff going on. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, because people sometimes just want to hate on China because it's easier to do, but in a lot of what goes on, with the exception of what's going on in the South China Sea right now, for the most part, China keeps to itself.
Hell, until the 70s, you couldn't go visit China. It was a locked off country. You couldn't get in.
Remember, Jack, they have 1.4 billion people they have to feed. Okay. So if we're not going to help them, then they've got to go out there and figure out how to do it. So let's not forget that. Yeah, well, I'm not saying everybody's being treated perfectly. I'm just saying they got 1.4 billion people to feed. Yes. So let's just keep that in mind when we're talking smack about somebody. But anyway, we got to go. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to United Public Radio and UFO Undercover. Hope everyone has a great evening, great morning, great afternoon. Any moans, groans, bitches, or complaint, please write to Michelle DeRoche, courtesy of Joe Montaldo. Yes, Michelle DeRoche. Oh, I wouldn't call her that. If you brave it, feel free. I'm not. Yeah, feel free to call her that. You'd be banned from the network for life. On that note, good night, and go check out the Outer Ring.